Lord, when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you? The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 38. On Monday, August 4th, 1975, 7 members of the Win Cam Tan family arrived in Columbus, Ohio. They traveled over 8,000 miles from Vietnam to find a new home. The Win children ranged from ages 11 to 17. Many families within the All Saints congregation sponsored the Wins over a 28-month period until the family was fully self-sufficient. In a letter to Pastor David Ullery, dated September 19, 1975, Mr. Win wrote, "We feel we are really lucky to be sponsored by your church and given the chance of being resettled in a nice city with nice people around, and all your eagerness to help us start life anew after all the hardship and ordeal we went through after we left our homeland." A little over 2 years later, Mr. Win wrote to Pastor David Ullery again, saying, "On the occasion of the 3rd Thanksgiving on American soil, we renew to you and every member of your church our grateful, heartfelt thanks for your sponsorship, enabling us to gradually and steadily become self-sufficient." Min Win Arns was 11 years old when she arrived in the United States.
Why we fled Vietnam? It was because my father had worked for an American offshore oil drilling business, and as such, he would be considered, an enemy of the Communist Party, and so we had to flee for our safety, basically. So safety, because we knew that if we were to stay, my father would be get rounded up and thrown in jail and who knows what. And just to take the risk and get the whole intact family of mom, dad, and their 5 children. And we fled Vietnam. Yep. And as a 12-year-old, 2 family names still are very vivid in my mind. One couple, John and Terry Hokinson, and also the Nokenmus, and these 2 families were the primary sponsor, if you will, who help us integrate into living life in the Midwest, and help us in many aspects, especially for Mr. Hokinson, who helped my father to find a job. We would get off food stamp rather rapidly, only after a few months or maybe 6 months even, and then slowly we eased our interaction and with All Saints. So it's just out of pure personal pride, if you will, and the desire to become independent, to break free and not burden. That the key here is stop being a burden to All Saints, to continuously provide assistance to us, that we our interaction would come to a halt.
In the late summer of 1986, the 5-member family of John Fioretti was approved for political asylum and immigration from Hungary to the United States. Before arriving in this country, the Fiorettis spent several months living in a refugee camp in Vienna, Austria. An All Saints Refugee Task Force was appointed and met with a representative of refugee resettlement to prepare for the Fioretti family's arrival in Columbus on September 12, 1986. In addition to meeting most of the family's material needs, several members organized a tutoring program to aid to the Furettis in learning the English language. In the summer of 1988, the financial support of the Furettis by the congregation concluded. Kay Lebowski was the lay ministry coordinator for All Saints and worked alongside the Refugee Task Force and the Furettis.
How I got involved at All Saints, I became a member of the staff there in March of 1986, and in late August of that year, the service committee had a meeting and discussed the fact that Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, LIRS, had inquired about whether All Saints would like to support another immigrant family or refugee family. And the committee said yes, that they would, and responded that way. We thought that it would be some time before there would be a response. A couple of weeks later, we were informed that in a couple of days, a family would be arriving at the airport. And so we didn't have a lot of time to prepare for the Furetti family from Hungary. And they were coming here for, I think, for economic freedom. At that time, Hungary was ruled by the communists, the Russians, and there was a lot of oppression there. And so they came here to the United States because of that. They had other family members that were in Columbus, which was very helpful because the family spoke English and the Furettis did not speak English. We did maintain an involvement with the Furetti family for several years after their arrival, in a variety of ways. It wasn't just a matter of setting them up in a household and giving them the material things that they needed, but we were really mentors to them in many ways.
In 2016, the All Saints Refugee Ministry began a new era under the leadership of Pastor Bonnie Gerber, George Schmidt, and Jeff and Gretchen Glasgow. A working relationship was established with Chris, Community, Refugee, and Immigration Services, which continues to this day.
Skip ahead to 2016 when I came to the Justice Roundtable with the idea of helping refugee families.
And he knew about Chris, and so he brought to the round table, what do we want to do, the Justice Ministry? What could we do here to help refugees? And it was an issue that caught fire right away. We sat around the table and said, who wants to do what? This is what we can do if we work with Chris. These are the kinds of things that we can do. And some of it was personal one-to-one, some of it was taking people to doctor's appointments, those kind of things. And then there was this section over here saying, well, and we can help a new family right when they get here. We can be we can have a welcoming team.
Sponsorships of families were expected to last 90 days and address basic needs of food, clothing, housing, household items, transportation, conversation, and advocacy. Teresa Gibson is a Community Engagement Coordinator for Community, Refugee, and Immigration Services and works closely with the All Saints Refugee Ministry team.
Chris.
Yeah, hi, my name is Teresa Gibson. I work with Community, Refugee, and Immigration Services. Chris is what we call it. And I started out with All Saints as the Welcome Team Coordinator. Now I'm a Community Engagement Coordinator, so it's changed a little bit. But it's really, I'm the person at Chris who meets with faith-based groups and churches and community groups to serve refugees and immigrants. But since I came, it's been Guatemala, Afghanistan, Somalia, Democratic Republic of Congo, and then in a broader sense, really all of our clients. So that would include Syria, Eritrea, because All Saints has donated dozens of items and welcome kits and the things people need when they arrive. So they've really helped kind of any client who's come in the last few years. All Saints has supported along the way. Well, All Saints has been absolutely a partner, and it's one of a handful of faith groups in the city that when there is a problem, when we have a sudden arrival, or when we need a welcome kit quickly, or All Saints has every time been there to help us out. So, and the response has just been rapid and fantastic. And also with All Saints' partnership with St. John's in Westerville. It's no small thing when someone comes here with nothing to make sure that they have the things they need for their house. It's no small thing to come alongside a family who's been in an emergency and needs a one-time gift with help, and All Saints has just been amazing at that.
The third refugee family arrived on July 29th, 2016 from Nepal. The Sunar Bishwa Kami family spanned 3 generations. By November of 2016, George Smith reported that the congregation's responsibilities toward the family had been completed. Collections for welcome kits continued. The 4th sponsorship happened in 2018 for Nebia Weldijbial of Eritrea. She was 33 years old when she arrived in the United States on November 21st, 2017. Since she had been living in the U.S. for several months, her primary needs involved transportation, socialization, and learning the English language. The 5th refugee family sponsorship began in the spring of 2023 with the Sahils, a family of 6 from Afghanistan. Mr. Sahil had been living in Columbus and was now being joined by his wife and 4 children, who at the time were 5, 7, 11, and 13 years old. 1 year later, in the spring of 2024, All Saints welcomed its 6th refugee family, the Cifuentes family from Guatemala. Valentin, Milagros, Randy, Rihanna, and Efren were fleeing oppression in their country and found many open arms and hearts when they were received and supported by the refugee ministry team and the All Saints congregation. In addition to the usual items, All Saints members Tom and Mona Derringer donated an automobile to the cause, as convenient transportation is always a challenge for refugee families. The most recent and 7th sponsorship has been of Amina Ahmed and her mother, her 2 sisters, and her 7 children. They are from Somalia. One of our volunteers who helps the Ahmed family unpack was Milagros, the mother of our 6th refugee family. When sponsorship of families was not available, the refugee ministry team concentrated on providing welcome kits containing household items for Chris to distribute. Additionally, the team pitched in to help 10 families who we were not sponsoring. Attention was also given to assisting victims of human trafficking and growing an awareness of the plight of Ukrainian and Eastern European refugees.
At the height of the refugees coming through, Chris, we would do 20 or 30 individual kits a year and 7 or 8 household kits. So quite a bit of material items were coming in. And they would be delivered to Chris, and then when the family would come, they would go to the family. That was our part. Now, other people were doing lots of other things, taking people to schools to get the kids enrolled. Everyone did something they felt comfortable with.
You want to talk about the Catholics?
Well, it was a neat relationship because we had some close friends who are Roman Catholic, and they also were interested. Their church was interested in refugee ministry, but they would get items in, but didn't know what to do with them. So anyhow, they would also collect items and then bring them over. So when we say we had this many kits that we did, this many every year, and that part of it was donations that came through a Roman Catholic congregation in Westerville. And for us, it was a nice feeling of ecumenical. I think Luther would have approved. He would have said, that's what the church should be looking like, But it was a nice way for two churches to work together for improvement in the lives of folks we didn't even know about. So.
In 1960, which is considered sort of the end of the World War II and the Southern migration movement, in the world there were 77 million migrant people. Since 1960 until the middle of 2024, that number has quadrupled. And there are now, in the middle of 24, 304 million displaced people. So that's the big change that has happened, and why All Saints has become involved, not just with one family supporting them over a period of time, but with many families.
I think one of the reasons is because it's a Lutheran church. And if you look at the Lutheran Church, it is a church of immigrants. If they're Scandinavian, if they're German, you know the history. So it's a natural thing for any Lutheran church to do, and many Lutheran churches do.
And we helped a family from Bhutan. And this family, as soon as I heard their situation, they've been in a refugee camp for 11 years. And their nation was invited into Nepal because they wanted help with hygiene and be more civilized. And after a couple of generations, they were tired of them, tried to kick them back out. And they did everything to make it so they wanted to leave.
If given the chance, most people would stay put in their homeland, because again, that's one's comfort zone. And so just out of respect for really think about, why people want to seek safety and freedom. It's just human nature, the basic needs beyond food and shelter. Every one of us deserve to have safe environment and to live with freedom.
And personally, for me, I know refugees. Now these are refugees from from a different time of conflict, and I know immigrants, and it's unbelievable to think that there isn't anyone that comes to this country that doesn't have worth and value, and they should be here. That's how we're all here. Refugees have a place, and they have much to give, and they have a life to live, and it should be a happy life. And so if we can help that happen for them, I think it should be. And yeah, it's who we profess to be.
It's right out of Micah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question, there's no debate. It's who we say we are and whose we say we are.
Jesus said, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 16.